city only see dick. Travel on this one-way path. Fuck the scenic. Shine across the horizon like a phoenix.
And here we are. We are back again to bring us into episode 24, 25, Chris? I don't know. You tell me. Like, I keep forgetting the numbers. Is it 24 or 25?
24.
24 of the Rub Wrestling Podcast, bringing various news, rumors, results, everything coming your way. As always, we talk about where you can find us on the podcast. You can find us on Google. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube. We're a big hit there. Subscribe, like us, and if you don't, go fuck yourself. But, and Josh, I'm watching you when I say this. With that being said, let's move into some, wrestling talk, because that's what we're really here for. We had a big pay-per-view on the weekend with Full Gear. We're going to go into some of the review of that. We're going to talk about the Continental Classic, and we're also going to go into Survivor Series, which is one of the biggest PLEs for WWE that's happening this weekend. So, pretty fun month of wrestling in the month of November. Hey, Santa's come early, boys. What do you say? With that, we have our esteemed panel. We got Chris, we got Josh, and we're going to fire everything up right now. Chris, it is American Thanksgiving. There was a lot of football on. Are you a football fan, and who do you cheer for? Because I really have no idea.
Yeah, I never really was. I have one of those starter Dallas Cowboys jackets back in the day, so I was a Dallas Cowboys fan. I knew Emmitt Smith played for them and Troy Aikman, and so I was a fan of them. I'm in a football pool. I've been in a football pool for about five years now. I don't watch any football, so I have no idea what I'm doing. It's just, I basically donate $50 every year to the winner. But it's it's kind of fun. I still get to do trades. You know how I like trades from you guys are my baseball pool. So I trade, and all I do, I don't know anything, so I just ask the person for one pick more, like one up pick, and then I usually get it. So I'm like, okay, I guess I won that one.
So basically, Josh, I think what Chris is telling us right now, that his fantasy football skills when it comes to the NFL is like Leon Lett fumbling in the Super Bowl against the Bills, when we're in 93. So
pretty fair assessment.
Great job, Chris. Do the celly and then get fumbled by some special teams guy in the end zone. Josh, bringing it on else, bringing you another sport topic, a fun one, because I know you're not a massive basketball fan, but the in-season tournament has now started. We're going to talk about, wrestling's in-season tournament that started, but what do you think about the in-tournament playing with the NBA during the in-season for that tournament with, the Raptors, I think, losing to the Celtics in the beginning here, since we're probably all Raptors fans, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool that they're doing something different. It's not the one tone, and then it gives everybody an opportunity to play for something, like a team that gets hot or that wins the right games when they're supposed to. Have you seen how they put the floors down? They're different colors. It's really, it's hard to watch. I mean, I'm looking at some of the floors and it's bright, like a bright color, and it's different, but. Yeah, basketball is so much different than I remember when watching when we were in high school, or watching the Bulls, and it's just, I don't know. I was watching the Raptors highlights yesterday. I don't watch a lot of basketball, but I watch highlights, and I mean they're letting close to 130 points a game sometimes. It's fucking crazy. There's not to say there's no defense, but the offense is so insane in basketball. They're throwing threes from everywhere, and so. Yeah, I think it's cool that they're shaking it up. Something different, and, it's better than an all-star game, that's for sure.
Chris, I'll throw it back to you just one really quick second. I just want to see if you get this trivia. Can you name this show? Damon Stoudemire, Rasheed Wallace.
I wish, but I can't. I can't think of it right now.
It was basketball players getting arrested on Dave Chappelle.
Oh, perfect.
And then the one guy said it was basically the skit was what would you do if you would get arrested for what NBA players would do? And there's this one guy who's there, he's stabbing some guy, and he's like, Paul Pierce.
Oh yeah, Stoudemire and Rasheed, they're part of the Jailblazers.
Yeah, it was if I actually got what it is now. It was basically if you were to do kind of your pull up a jumper and say Kobe, and everybody was saying Kobe, but you used other players, and then they had another guy that choked their boss, and he called Latrell Sprewell. Good fucking times, man. Anyways.
Oh yeah.
We have to agree with Josh. Things are a little bit different. We'll talk about a couple things today, but let's get right into Full Gear. We talked about the preview, so we have a little mix-up in getting the info out for the podcast for the Full Gear preview, but it is coming, guys, so be patient. Listen to that episode first. Come back to this. This one will be released probably in a week. But, yeah, overall, just Chris, if we're just going to talk right off the cuff, like, what were your original thoughts about watching Full Gear and watching the show? Do you think it lived up to AEW standards, or do you think that it kind of missed the mark a little bit?
I didn't catch the whole thing, but I did catch some of it. Sorry, my screen just switches every once in a while. So I did catch some of it. I caught Hangman and Swerve. I like that. What else did I see? It's the fact that I don't remember is kind of telling, is that I wasn't as into it as I thought I would be. I have heard from Everybody Take a Drink McPherson that the MJF Jay White wasn't, he found it a little overbooked. I didn't see it, so I don't know if you guys want to comment on that, but a lot of the outcomes I was happy with, like Julia Hart. I'm pretty happy to see that, to be honest with you. It was it was a surprise as well, so it's that's always nice. And I'm definitely happy that the Golden Jets are still together. I thought that was, we don't want to see another Young Bucks run it at a title, so it's good that they kind of have FTR and the Young Bucks not in the mix, and they have different teams coming in, so it's a little nice to see. Yeah, but you would have liked to see the Devil at the end, but we didn't. I think we all called the Will Ospreay thing, so I was happy to see that. So it's one of the normal AEW shows. Like, it's a normal AEW pay-per-view.
Chris, as energetic as always. Josh, what are your thoughts about Full Gear? Do you feel like was it a banger? Do you find it was a banger? Or do you find it was a mixed bag? Or do you find it was, a gong show for all sakes and purposes?
I mean, I always enjoy there's always one or two matches in a pay-per-view for AEW that, steal the show. I always going to gripe on how many matches there are and how long the pay-per-view is, because, like, I felt like in a pay-per-view like this, even if you had 3 matches that were like A pluses or A's, you'd still have a bunch of forgettable matches, or you'd have some downtime. So it'd be really difficult. I feel like, unless you have banger after banger after banger, the atmosphere is going to be difficult or not as strong. And even if you have banger after banger after banger, like when we watched Forbidden Door, it wasn't like there wasn't a lot of bad matches, but like it was long. It's just too long. And so I'm also not super keen. You know how I felt about MJF wrestling twice, and you're like, okay, so you've got this huge roster, you're not using everybody, and MJF's in every story, and that's great, but like enough is enough. And the injury storyline, it was kind of stupid. Like Adam Cole's gonna fight Jay White, and like I was kind of hoping like that was actually gonna happen, and Adam Cole was actually just not injured, and then it's like, okay, so now we can move on from it. But obviously he's clearly injured, and apparently MJF's injured now as well, but he should be okay for World's End, I guess. And I guess that's why they booked Joe like they did yesterday, where he's like, I'll protect you until we get to World's End, and it'll probably just help Max avoid any matches. But like, I still find the storyline interesting for Max going to be like a super baby face, where he would not want to wrestle every night, to like, oh yeah, I'm going to wrestle every night. So I'm glad that we didn't get the Devil payoff, but I'm also kind of like, fuck, I really wish I knew who the Devil was. But now if they surprise us, like I hope they do, the payoff will be even that much better. But I still think that it's going to be Adam Cole under that mask. So like the payoff's not going to be worth it, but whatever. But that, agree with Chris, Hangman and Swerve. Ooh, that was like, if that was the only match of the night, that made the pay-per-view for me, watching that, because you don't get to see a match like that very often.
Yeah, you know what? I'd honestly say for me, when you're kind of looking at the pay-per-view as a whole and what we paid, and it comes out to about, what, $50, I'd say literally, when we're going to talk about Hangman and Swerve in a second, that was the money match of the night by far. Like, that was worth the $50, in my opinion, and Tony Khan really struck gold with that. But I also think that those two wrestlers and a lot of the performers that were on the show that really developed their storyline or had a previous link to a storyline that was functional made it work. Like Moxley and Cassidy made it work. You know, the women's matches, a lot of the storylines have been convoluted, but the Julia Hart thing was great. I thought I thought at one point that I thought Sky Blue was going to go over, and you know, and Statlander is okay. I think it's just the challenge of having two women's belts. There should really only be one, in my opinion, just because you can't really split up a roster that's small like that. But I felt overall as a whole, when we watched Full Gear, it felt a little bit short compared to what we've seen in some of the other pay-per-views. And I think a lot of it is, Josh, exactly what you just said. It's like this convoluted storyline with MJF where, you know, he's wrestling the guns, and if anybody thinks that it's stupid that he wasn't going to get beat down like that, you're an idiot. Like, it was basically foretold or foreshadowed that was going to happen, and we knew he was going to have to fight injured in the main event. Now, when Cole came out, like, there was a couple things running through my head, and Chris is going to like this because it's like conspiracy. I thought maybe MJF doesn't come back, and maybe Cole just lays down, and then Jay White wins it, and then, you know, we have our reveal there. I didn't think that, like, until the reveal didn't happen, to the very last second, I said the reveal could potentially happen. And, you know, and I think that got a little bit, that started to wane after MJF won. But I think when you're kind of going through that, it is a little convoluted with that storyline. I think now with what we saw in Dynamite, they went from Full Gear into Dynamite, and I thought Dynamite was a great show last night, kicking off the Continental Classic, which we'll talk about shortly as well. And I think we saw some great wrestling, really highlighted the product. We had an insane storyline with Christian Cage that we'll get in soon. We'll talk about that, not tonight, but probably at a later date. But just crazy stuff from what we saw there. But anyways, that's my thoughts on Full Gear. But let's bring it to the match of the night. We don't want to wait anymore. Hangman and Swerve in a Texas death match. Had a build-up before that match that was fire all the way through. We had Swerve sneaking into Hangman's house. We had the weekend show in California. I think it was Friday or Saturday, where basically Swerve was in the building. Hangman ran out through the crowd and beat him down. This felt like a feud. This felt personal. This felt, you know, like a shit kicking. And it was really funny. There was a really cool homage in, you know, Swerve's ring gear, where it was almost a little bit of slight tribute, it felt like, to Bray Wyatt. With the pants and kind of all that stuff. And then, you know, Hangman just comes out and just sets the tone right off the bat by punching him in the face. And then all of a sudden we have staples. We got a cinder block. What else? We got tables. We had, oh my God, we had broken glass. Like, that ring was a goddamn mess 20 minutes after, to the point where Hangman could barely stand. There was so much sweat and blood in that ring when we went across. Now, Chris, I'm going to ask you this question because I think you've watched it a little more than Josh, because you've watched a lot of the old, you know, Texas, like Japanese, these deathmatch styles where the rings are on fire, where there's barbed wire around the ring. Will this go down as one of the best death matches of all time? Or is it blown out of proportion for what we were seeing in North America compared to what we saw 20 years ago in Japan? Just give me, what are your thoughts? Is this one of the best death matches you've ever seen?
Yeah, it was really good, and I've seen my fair share, and even in ECW, you think about New Jack. New Jack always had the stapler, like, those staples went deep, like that. That's good to see, and I mean, it told a story. It wasn't just a ruthless death match just for the point of having a death match, so that's good. Yeah, it was perfect. It was. From what I saw, it was the match of the night for me, definitely. And then, like, you can kind of build your company around these guys now. Like, you gave them a chance, and now they're really showing. They really showed their ilk there, and it's awesome. You have two bona fide stars. They made 2 stars basically in that match.
I think really the key when you're talking about that, Chris, and I agree, I think Hangman was already a star. He was the world champion already, but you know what? You really have to be able to develop these guys, and this was a perfect storyline for Swerve. to really have the moment that he was going to have to go through. And, for even with him coming out with a victory, I think that was something that we were kind of like not really expecting with him walking out and winning it, but at the end of the day, like, I think he's really earned his chops for what he's done. I mean, that takes a lot of guts. And when you watch death matches and people bleed very early in the first 5 minutes and the Crimson Mask is there, I don't think people realize what that's like to lose that much blood that quickly. And to still do the moveset that you have to do and perform at the level you perform at, and to hit your moves without like getting, like, some people lose a little bit of blood and they get dizzy, or they need to sit down and have a glass of water and a cookie or something, like when you're taking blood. But when you're losing that much blood and on top of that you're exerting yourself, like, there's something really special there when you're looking at that. And they put on a great show. Like, Josh, like you said, not a shot at you for not watching a lot of the Japanese stuff, but what were your favorite moments of this match when you looked at it?
Yeah, I mean, I was hooked from the beginning. Like, I've been, I kind of wasn't really keen on Swerve because I didn't really understand the Mogul Empire. But over the last few weeks or the last few months, he's really turned me into, whose house, Swerve's house fan. One of my favorite parts was when Swerve was stapling himself, right? Like, he was like, "Fuck this shit," and like, I was really hoping that he was going to win, and I thought, he's probably not going to win because they're probably going to book a trilogy. But in my opinion, it didn't make sense for him to lose because, like, the momentum he's getting, the pop he's getting from the fans, like, he's a made man now. Like, he's so over with the fans, even though he's still a heel. Like, I think this is his opportunity to have a run to become the champion. Like, I think that's really what he should be. Like, and maybe, he alluded to being the first black champion at AEW before.
Yep.
And I still think that, like, he would be a great, like, that would be fantastic. And I'm hoping that's what we get to see, because I think that he brings something that's much different than a lot of the wrestlers in the world have. And he's showing his ability to have some, like with the hardcore match, like just being able to be a versatile wrestler and being good on the microphone and not being your cookie cutter, this is what a wrestler is supposed to be kind of thing. And I just really, really like it. And like Adam Page losing to Swerve in this match isn't going to hurt Adam Page. Adam Page, isn't going to be in the title picture anytime soon. And like I said, I think I'm really happy that Strickland won, because if he loses this match, then he's, a couple months back, because they're going to have the trilogy, right? Like, now they can skip the trilogy for a year, and maybe it happens when Swerve's risen to the top, because he doesn't have to climb that mountain again. It'll be interesting what happens, because he's in the Continental Classic. So, I mean, there's a chance that he wins that instead, which isn't a terrible thing, because, he could probably go to Japan too, right? So
that's a really unique take, and I think when you're kind of looking at it, I absolutely agree. I would say at this point, after watching that death match, and you watch Swerve, and if you've watched Swerve on the Indies and you watch him in the WWE, there's two things that I really like to talk about. One, what an amazing redemption story of what it is to not have any creativity for your character, be basically roughshotted into having some stupid name like Isaiah Scott, but then being able to keep the Swerve thing, use your old name kind of like you did in the Indies, and then basically come back, put on 25 pounds of muscle, and literally become, in a span of 6 to 9 months, probably one of the best all-round performers in the game today. And I'm not gonna, it's just, he can do anything. He can do technical wrestling. He can fly. He can do a death match from what we saw. He can grapple. He can do almost anything. And I think that's what's going to make it so key. And I think, Josh, you hit it right on the head. I think, it's not about, the staples were great. Like when Hangman Page was stapling the drawings of his kid on his face, it was fantastic. Never seen anybody take a staple in the cheeks. I've seen them take it in the forehead. I've never seen him take it in the cheeks, but he's wrestling and the goddamn thing still on his face. It was fantastic. It was very gory. It was unsettling. at times, but at the end of the day, the story that was told was amazing. And I think you hit it right on the head, Josh. Like, that was a main event caliber match. And to do it again on a main event level for a world title would be unbelievable. And if it's a last man standing or something and it has a stip like that, you're going to see these guys fucking kill each other. And that's what I love to see. Like, you know, take care of yourself in the ring, but look like you guys actually killed each other. Like, that's what makes it amazing, right? And like, even with the stuff in the back, like, he's in the back and he's got the staples in and they're taking it out. And obviously, you know, he's a rapper and he's on a label. He has his label or whatever he has. He has something that he's in the music industry. There's a rapper in there and he goes, "Are those real staples?" And he goes, "Yeah, they're real staples. You want to pull them out?" And like, he just didn't even care. He's just like pulling them out. Like, you know, so like tough as nails, like just dedicated to his craft. And I think like what a redemption story for him, and you know, fantastic to see him get the win there and do what he has to do. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how he's going to perform, especially on Dynamite after getting the 3 points against you know, I think it was Jay Lethal in a pretty good match on Dynamite for the Continental Classic, which we'll talk about shortly. Now, we're going to move from Hangman and Swerve. We're going to talk about the main event, which was MJF and Jay White, which was, you know, I don't think it had a terrible build-up either. There was a lot of story there with Jay White stealing the belt, really the Guns getting in the head of MJF and a whole bunch of things. But we talked about it, and we alluded to it at the beginning. You know, there was a convoluted story there. And this really got topsy-turvy with MJF having to wrestle twice for these ROH titles. And then Samoa Joe stepping in, that's cool. And then all of a sudden, MJF isn't in the main event anymore. It's Adam Cole, because basically the Guns have injured MJF's knee pretty bad and they have to take him out in an ambulance. Like, my God, my head's spinning just trying to talk about the goddamn storyline of Full Gear for this main event. So, Josh, we'll start with you on this question. And, you know, you kind of look at all this thing, like the wrestling, in my opinion, when you looked at MJF and Jay White, I think MJF did an amazing job selling the knee injury, but having a kayfabe knee injury like that, did that take away from the type of potential match that they could have had just by running a storyline that would have been effective at that point, where they didn't have the ROH tag titles, let's say, and they just did the main event story?
I mean, it definitely doesn't take away from MJF, right? It makes him more of a superhero than anything. I think what it does is it does, you know, like it kind of like what happened with that tag team that he beat single-handedly. It's like, you know, you immediately bury that person because now they've lost to someone who's handicapped or injured. Not to say that MJF can't overcome an injury. It's just, you know, like you build up this thing, and I get that, you know, the heels are going to attack the face, and that's kind of, you know, the way that it is. But just, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense for the story. Like, MJF doesn't need to overcome that much. And then I thought he was doing an okay job selling the injury, but then he jumps off the top ropes doing an elbow drop on the ground, and it's like, I know, like the face gets over the injury, but it's like, I don't know, it wasn't really the match that I wanted to see. It wasn't a terrible match, but I think that like the injury and how much that impacted how it went, and how they got there with like Adam Cole going into the ring, and like, you know, maybe it would have been better, like, instead of saying Adam Cole fighting him, it would be like, I'll make sure that, you know, something that will protect your belt. It didn't really make any sense how someone could challenge for a title that I don't know, that whole thing didn't make any sense. It was very UFC, but not like booked very well. I just didn't like it.
Yeah, and you know what? I think, like, personally, I think they need to vacate these ROH tag titles. I mean, I think that's what it was. When they both went to the ring on Dynamite on Wednesday night, I was really hoping that they were going to vacate them. And they didn't. And I think that's so stupid, because you're taking, like, Josh, you hit it right on the head. You're taking that spot away from somebody, right? Like, so we're taking that spot for these guys to have two titles that they're not going to defend or use. And basically, one of the other things is that ROH's biggest pay-per-view is at the end of the year. Always is. It's always ROH Final Battle. And to not have the tag team championships on the line at Final Battle is fucking stupid to me. Like, it just really is. It's just, it is bad booking to an extent. You know, it's like, we talk about the devil payout as well. We never really got that payout, which is fine. But I think if the payout was there, it probably would have taken away the allure of, or kind of the fundamental mistakes that would have potentially happened with that main event match. Like, the sad part about me, and this is my question to Chris, and I'll get into my thoughts after like I usually do, but Chris, AEW has done such a great job building up Bullet Club Gold and building up Jay White as, you know, this fucking superstar that has it all. Like, he's amazing in the ring, great on the mic, really passionate, really did a great job. Does this loss to MJF on a bum knee really actually take away from, you know, where he's going to kind of end up? I think he's still going to have the heat of being the leader of the Gun Club, and he still has, you know, him being in the Continental Classic as well to kind of overshadow what's kind of happened here. But at the end of the day, is this a bad loss for Jay White and his credibility as a world champion?
I mean, the optics aren't great because of the knee injury, but no, I think he'll be fine. It's just like real sports, right? Teams losing the World Series, they come back and they win the World Series. So I think they have him going strong still. He got his 3 points in the tournament, which is good. So it was a nice bounce back from the loss, like coming right back with a win. And we'll talk about the tournament later, but I think he'll be just fine. I think if they kind of like, if they had him sit out for a little bit, or they had him come and lose the first round of his tournament match, it's going to be a little harder to get him moving. But he's still the leader of Bullet Club Gold. I still get excited when I hear the Bullet Club Gold entrance music. So for me, it's still working. I want to see, just like Swerve's getting his due, I'd like to see Jay White get his due. And Ospreay mentioned specifically that it doesn't feel like their story was done from Japan. So I mean, that would be a good feud for right when Ospreay comes in.
Absolutely. Would have really, on a side note, I really would have loved to see Will in the tournament, but he still has some dates and stuff to kind of finish up in Japan, right? So there was a talk of a buyout of the agreement for him to get the contract. So it'll be interesting for when he joins up. He's not going to join up right away. And if I'll just let everybody know before we talk about the Continental Classic, if you didn't get to see the press conference at Full Gear, it's a really good performance by MJF there too. And if you watch, it's the first 15-20 minutes of the presser. Like, he was fucking emotionally drained. He was crying, eating pickles and a whole bunch of shit. So really entertaining stuff for YouTube if you haven't watched the presser. So it's always worth it after 5 hours of wrestling to watch another 2 hours of Tony Khan talking. I usually fall asleep an hour in, but it's worth it. So now my favorite point. Holy fuck, I got my wish, guys. We have a tournament in North America for professional wrestling, and it started on Wednesday night on Dynamite. And it's going to conclude at World's End. We got the Continental Classic, which is actually really unique because it will create a Triple Crown champion in this scenario, which is, I think it's going to be, what is it? It's the NJPW Strong title, the ROH World Championship, and there's going to be another belt that's there as well. And I don't know if anybody knows what the other belt is.
The Continental. It's going to be the Continental Championship.
Continental Championship. So, like, really, really cool thing. We got 12 great wrestlers in this. In the gold, there's 2 leagues, a blue league and a gold. In blue, we got Andrade El Idolo, we got Bryan Danielson, Eddie Kingston, Brody King, which is a big fan. We're a big fan of the show. I'm sure we're rooting for him. Claudio Castagnoli and Daniel Garcia. The blue league has not started. That will start on Collision on Saturday night. But the gold league did start on Wednesday night, which was Jay White against Jay Lethal. Jay White gets the W there. John Moxley beat Mark Briscoe in the main event to get 3 points. And Swerve Strickland had a really good opening match. With
Jay Lethal.
With Jay Lethal. Yeah.
Yeah, Jay White faced Roosh, I think.
Yeah,
yeah, Jay White did face Roosh. My apologies. I'm like, did I say Jay Lethal twice? But you're right. Now, boys, I'm thoroughly stoked about this, and I love this because this is a great way to have 20-minute matches where there was, from what you saw on Wednesday night, nobody can be at ringside. There's no interference, and it's pure wrestling at its greatest form. And this is the great way to create a how like really strong performances from your wrestlers. Like I love the guys at the top because they will be in the finals, right? The people that aren't have good showings and then have redemption arcs later on. So the person like maybe I don't expect Daniel Garcia to have like 9 points out of this or 12 points out of this, but at the end of the day, he's really going to be able to show his chops against some of the best wrestlers in AEW. And I think that's really what gets your character over is how these matches happen. How can you perform against the big guys? And how do these set up storylines moving forward? I think I'm so excited, and you can probably hear it in my voice. I love it. Chris, when you're looking at the rosters and you're looking at this, we got some big names, obviously. You know, Jay White was just in the final, like in the main event. We're just talking about at Full Gear. Swerve Strickland had that amazing match. Moxley's a credible champion. Bryan Danielson, but I don't care about them at this point. Who is the long shot that could come out of this to make a final at World's End? That would be shocking potentially to people out there, or maybe not so shocking according to you. Who's the underdog here in each of the leagues?
Yeah, that's a good question. Claudio's got to be one. Like he's got to be kind of a dark horse that might be able to do it. Daniel Garcia, no, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be between Jay White and wait, it can't be because they're from the same side, right?
Yeah, same side.
Okay. So then I think Swerve's gonna move on from that, from the gold side. Yeah, dark horse though, eh? I don't Moxley's in it.
Moxley's in it.
Yeah. So he could be a dark horse. He's one thing. I
don't think so.
Like
he's been an AEW world champion.
Well, no, but I just don't like. We usually see him. He's only held a different belt once, and it wasn't for very long. So I don't really see him moving on and then putting that belt on him. But they could. One thing I really like about it, it's like Christmas for me too, Matt, is the point system, because the point system can give you so many different avenues to go. Like you can have an underdog beat the top guy because it's a point system.
Yeah.
So you can do stuff like that where just like Josh hates, where you're fighting for a belt and somebody wins and they don't get the belt. This is different where there's no belt attached, so you can take like a Moxley could. For an example, a Moxley could lose to a Garcia, but also win other matches, right? So you do have those opportunities to make really cool stories, just like they do in NJPW. They do this, like they have guys lose and to someone they're not supposed to lose to, and it's great to watch.
Like I'm so excited for Josh. I'm excited for us, but I'm really excited for Josh because Josh hasn't gone through a full G1 climax, right? And so this is something like really cool because you're going to see something different. There's no bullshit here. You're not going to have a scenario like where the 1-2-3 kid beats Razor Ramon. Like in this, that could happen. And so you could have somebody that really gets over out of nothing. Like you could have Daniel Garcia beat Bryan Danielson. And that's a storyline from before where he's like, Bryan Danielson's my hero. Well, Daniel Garcia can go 0-3 and then beat Bryan Danielson and say, like, he could just lose every match but beat Bryan Danielson and just go out the next week and say, well, I fucking beat my idol. I beat my hero. I beat the best guy. I beat the guy who won the tournament maybe. You know, like, it's really cool to go through because it gives wrestling credibility as a sport. And I think that's really what it is. You're not going to have, like, you know, people are like, well, the punches are fake. Well, a guy getting fucking staples in his fucking chest is pretty goddamn fucking real. But there's a credibility to it that makes it exciting. And that's really what kind of makes it so cool. Like, I mean, Josh, when you're looking at this, you know, the final is going to be the top two people out of Gold and the Blue League. Who do you want to see in the finals at World's End if you were watching this? Because, I mean... I'll have another question for you. Let's just start there, and I have a question for you afterwards as well.
Will it end at World's End? I thought it was going to take they're going
to
they have to fight.
Yeah, the finals are at World's End on December 30th. Whoever wins the Blue League and the Gold League are going to face off for the Triple Crown Championship.
And they fight each other once, everybody, right? Like they fight everybody in their bracket once. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. I would say it's really hard to pick a winner. I think, like when Chris was talking about Dark Horse, I don't disagree that Jon Moxley's probably not going to win, but he's like should be the favorite, right? Because he is like that in like if you were to say like in like a G1 climax, like John Moxley's the best wrestler that AEW has, or is one of the best wrestlers that they have. Same thing with Brian Danielson. But like looking at the list and like I could see Claudio like dark horse could win too, but like really for me the dark horse is Brody King. I think he should win the thing, but he's not going to win it. But like I would love to see him win it. He's not going to. He's fodder, just like Daniel Garcia, just like Roosh. You know, definitely like Mark Briscoe. Mark Briscoe is the biggest dark horse in this thing. Maybe him and Jay Lethal. You know, if either of them won, I'd shit my pants.
Yeah.
But I think that I'm just kind of hoping that it's like I would like to. I think Swerve Strickland should win this, or like because with the trajectory that he's having, like unless you're trying to delay his story to get to the top and you don't want to give him these 3 titles, then that's fine. But if you want to give him the accolades he deserves now, like I don't see Jay White winning, so I think I'd like to see Swerve win this.
Ooh, wow. I disagree with that, and I'll get we'll do a final opinion on who we think is going to win the tournament or who's going to be in the finals in a sec. But Josh, this is your first aspect watching this tournament structure and watching that pure wrestling ability. And we watched those 3 matches. I don't know what you thought. I thought they were all fantastic. I thought even the main event with Moxley and Briscoe, which I thought shouldn't have been the main event. I thought it should have been White and Roosh, believe it or not, because I thought that was going to be the best out of 3. I was really pleasantly surprised about how all the matches turned out. And you are a big wrestling, watching the wrestling content for what it is. Did it meet your expectations or did it exceed your expectations for your first couple matches watching a tournament like this?
I mean, so all 3 matches had results that I expected. Because the Gold League seems like it's easier to pick the winners, at least in those 3 matches. Like that was the easy first 3 matches. In the Blue League, it's a little bit harder for me to see people losing because of how powerful some of them should be. But yeah, it was great. I think that the problem that I had was the John Moxley Mark Briscoe match was rushed. Like it was when I looked at the time and I saw that the women's match was just going on, I was like, what the hell's going on here? Like this is your final match of the night. And they're like, no, we have another match. We're going to go extra if we have to. And maybe there's a delay on mine because it only went to like 10:04 or 10:05 on my.
That's I was checking on my clock too to see how far they went over, and that's accurate. You're accurate at 10:04, 10:05.
But like that match was like 10 minutes at the most, not even. And I don't know. It was kind of like you did it. If you're going to showcase this tournament for the first night, your final match of the night shouldn't be a throwaway. Not to say that it was a throwaway. It was not to say it was a bad match. It just wasn't like, the final match, a John Moxley, Mark Briscoe match that I'd expect to see.
Yeah, I think like when I looked at the quality of it, I thought it was really good. I thought White and Roosh was great. I thought even Strickland and Lethal were great. And the only difference between Moxley and Briscoe was that you had 2 roughnecks going. But the other difference was when you look at the times, Strickland and White were basically 14 minutes, where Moxley and Briscoe were 12. That was the difference. It was 2 minutes difference between the matches, but that 2 minutes can make a big difference in a 14 to 12 to 14 minute match, right? But yeah, I'm really excited to see this tournament. Chris, who's going to win this tournament?
Swerve. I think Swerve.
If you can, and so think of it this way. I want you to give me who wins out of the Blue League, who wins out of Gold, and who wins the tournament at World's End.
I think Danielson will come out of Blue. I think Swerve will come out of Gold, and I think they're going to give it to. I think they're going to give it to Danielson. I mean, no, sorry. I think they're going to give it to Swerve. I think they're going to give it to Swerve. I swerved you guys there.
Slightly convoluted, like Full Gear. Yeah, you swerved us. Swerve when you drive.
But we could also.
Josh,
sorry to jump in, but we could. I mean,
geez, you're gonna change your answer.
Well,
now.
there are some interesting things. Like, what if we could see like a Moxley versus Danielson would be pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. Right. I would agree with that too. But Chris is going, I'm sticking with your original answer. Chris is going Danielson, Strickland. Strickland is the winner. Josh, what are you saying here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's really difficult. I think it's hard to pick a winner. I think like my heart says Swerve Strickland wins as well. like overall. But for some reason, I think Eddie Kingston's going to come out of the Blue League, only because like he's the one who put up, he's the one who put it up, right? Like so maybe like he's, or is this just like he's like this is a way to get him off of those titles? So like okay, probably not going to be Eddie Kingston, but like if it's Swerve and Eddie Kingston, you could say I said it first. But no, I'm going to stick with Swerve and Eddie Kingston. Fuck it,
Nice.
Swerve wins.
Wow. I have actually, Josh, I'm with you. I have Eddie Kingston as a dark horse, but I don't think he gets there. I think I don't even think he comes out of the Blue League. I think Andrade is going to be the steal out of the Blue League for wrestling these guys. I think he's going to be quality, but he's not going to win it either. I think Danielson comes out of the blue side. I think the gold side, I don't think it's Swerve. I really don't. And I just don't think that Swerve's meant to be the Triple Crown champion for this. I think he's going to be better suited as a TNT champ or a world champ based on what we saw at Full Gear. But what I will say is who's going to win gold, I think, is going to be Jay White. And I actually have Jay White winning this tournament because I think it actually makes sense. A little bit different. I think if you put Danielson and White together, I think you're going to have fireworks. I think Danielson can go to Japan, potentially fight Okada and have the belts on the line there too, maybe. But I think Jay White deserves to get his flowers. I think him having the Continental, especially being from New Zealand, being from NJPW, and being able to fight across the globe, I think is one of his strong suits. So I think to have him win this title and be the inaugural champion for this would be pretty strong for him and his career. And I think it would make him look good after what happened at Full Gear. So that's my thought.
Did you say inaugurable?
Inaugurable.
I heard a B in there. Is there a B in inaugural?
It's the rub wrestling.
Fuck the abominable
The rub wrestling where nothing can possibly go wrong.
Possibly go wrong. That's the first thing that's ever gone wrong. Anywho, we're gonna move it on to Survivor Series. We got Survivor Series coming in on the weekend. We're not gonna try and rush through this. We already have 40 minutes. Holy shit! But we're gonna go with a match that we're gonna talk about for the Intercontinental Championship. That's pretty interesting when we look at Gunther versus The Miz. Now, I don't think anybody's really giving Miz much of a chance in this. And I think you look at Gunther and how well he's performed, and he's had the belt for like what feels like fucking Roman Reigns-esque 1,000 days, but it's probably more like 400 days or 300. Josh will look it up at some point. He's good at that. But it just seems really odd. The Miz is coming towards the end of his career. I think to this point, he's probably hovering around his late 30s, early 40s. Had an established career, but he is a severe underdog in this match. Chris, what are the odds, and like percentage-wise or fractions, whatever mathematical analysis you want to use, that The Miz actually has a chance of dethroning the longest-reigning Intercontinental Championship in WWE history, or champion?
I will go.
Possible.
I will go with the lowest mark I've ever received in an educational facility, and I will say, I would say 25% because I got 25% just for coming every day in physics class, Mr. Barry.
Nice.
Mr. Aaron Barry. I do. If this is coming up to the end of his career, he's always had good runs with the Intercontinental Championship. So, it wouldn't be my ideal pick for someone to for the person to take it off him, but I think he has had good runs. He makes himself pretty prevalent when he has a title around his waist. I would have liked to see Gable, but. I think he's going to win? No. I think it make an interesting way for Miz's last run? Yes. And then you can get the belt off Gunther and you can put it on somebody who's established rather than Gable. But yeah, I'd say 25% chance he wins. You never know, right? You never know when they're going to swerve us because there's not a lot going on this card right now. So.
No, it's kind of a weird card for what we've been looking at from the pay-per-view style. I think a lot of the big stars are kind of in a Survivor Series match on the women's side and on kind of the men's side when you're looking at whatever it is. We're going to talk about the big War Games match that'll happen on the men's side next. But Josh, what's your percentage of? Does The Miz even have a shot at winning this?
Oh yeah, I think absolutely. I actually think that. I mean, this it could make perfect sense because to get the title off of Gunther, I mean, he's clearly, a future WWE champion. And the way that they're teasing it, looks like, Kaiser's going to have, like, there's going to be a turn at some point because Gunther's starting to talk down to Kaiser, and, Kaiser lost his last match. So, like, the Miz can easily win a match against Gunther with the help of Kaiser, because Kaiser's upset and he doesn't help Gunther when he needs it, or something like that. So, I mean, I would say I'm a little bit higher, like 45%. I think it could happen, only because I agree that Gunther's going to lose the championship at some point. The Miz is a person who could take it off of him. It doesn't have to be like they're not booking anybody to be bigger than Gunther right now. That would fight for the Intercontinental Championship. So I think it has to be someone like The Miz, who's been established. He's a double, whatever,
two-time Grand Slam,
not Royal, Grand Slam champion. Yeah.
Yep.
2-time Grand Slam champion. So he's been around the block, and I think that you could give him the belt for a few months and have him lose to anybody, right? Like, it's not that hard. So I'd like to see it because, Survivor Series it's unlikely you're going to see another title change, and I feel like that's the thing that WWE continues to not give you is title changes. So,
yep. And you know what, I my worry in this match is that Miz is a pretty good wrestler. I don't think it's going to happen, but one of the things that's in the back of my head is that he's going to get embarrassed by a mat technician, like really bad. And he hasn't faced a lot of mat technicians like Gunther has. I'm not saying the Miz is bad by any means, and I think like there's always a chance that somebody can have like I like to call it the WrestleMania Zack Ryder moment, right? But I think that's where we are with Miz in his career at this point. Like, I mean, he's still a draw. He still can gather heater. He can still get, the crowd behind him when he wants. I think the crowd loves to hate him, and I think that's why he makes such a great heel. But I think he's far past his days of really holding a title for a long period of time. But I agree with you, Josh. I think, like, it's kind of like something else. Like, when a run gets tired, like, kind of like Gunther's run may get a little tired, it's good to have somebody that could kind of fill in, that's credible, that can hold the belt when they go across. But for me, when you look at a PLE that's and Chris, we've talked about how disappointing the card was in a way that from what we've looked at, and we still have SmackDown to go on Friday before everything happens to see, like, because we are going to talk about a match that's not on the card that's predicted at the end. But I mean, when you're kind of looking at it and you have 8 of your 10 stars really in that War Games match, it really kind of took away on who could really step in on a high level. And it seems like almost a step down to go to The Miz. We've been hearing rumors. I heard a rumor that after this match, like, Jey Uso really wants to be the Intercontinental Champion and have a run with a singles title. That would be a good matchup for him. But for me, when I look at that match, that's almost a better match than what I like to be on the card than watching, Gunther and The Miz, right? So, I don't know. I think either way, we're going to be entertained when we go across and watch it, but I think I'm with you guys. I have a really low percentage of him winning it, and if he does, it would be kind of like a, not that The Miz is incredible, but it'd be kind of a rags to riches story. You're actually beating one of the longest rating Intercontinental champions of all time, and that might solidify Miz as one of the top Intercontinental champions of all time because of how many times he's had that title, right? So, moving into the next game, we got our War Games match. That's pretty much going to be probably one of the highlights. Chris, I know you're a massive fan of War Games, right? And of the Survivor Series 5-on-5. And, I'm going to ask you probably the most common question for anybody that's watched a lot of Survivor Series in a sec. But we're going to have Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, Seth Rollins, and Randy Orton, who basically came back on Monday Night Raw to be the 5th member of that team, basically against Judgment Day, with their leader being Drew McIntyre, who sided with Rhea Ripley and with the team for the War Games match. So, kind of a crazy matchup here where we got 9 amazing wrestlers, 8 amazing wrestlers. I mean, and Dominic and JD McDonough. I think JD McDonough is good, but he's not as well known as he is in Europe. And Dominic gets a lot of heat, but he's, we've talked about his wrestling ability before. But either way, it's going to be a good match. But we got 8 of the biggest stars in this War Games match where we're going to see Cage. Hopefully we're going to see blood, and hopefully we're going to see some people get hurt. Not badly, of course, but just violence for our amusement. But really long story for this, right, Chris, going into it. So I'm going to give you my easiest question that I can ask you right now. Is there going to be a sole survivor in this?
Oh,
Even though it's War Games, could there even be a sole survivor in this? Because pretty sure War Games just is whoever gets the pin, right? But let's pretend. Let's say this was a Survivor Series match. Who is the sole survivor if there was one?
I'd have to go with Cody on this one. I have to, like, if we're still following the story, it's a good win for Cody to be that sole survivor. Sami Zayn would be cool. Would be cool if he outlasted. But it could actually be possible. What if they go the route where everybody's literally so beat up that there's only one guy left? So you never know.
Yeah.
But because I love the Soul Survivor stuff. But I think like my money goes with Cody, and I just like there's not really any reason for Sami Zayn to like come out of there if it was that way for him to be a sole survivor. I'm gonna have to say Cody. I want to say Finn Balor too. Finn Balor would be pretty cool.
Josh, Randy Orton's obviously a late addition to this match. He's been out for probably close to over a year now, and Randy's another guy who's kind of coming into the twilight of his career. Do you think that his addition in this match really kind of changes it? We talked about, Chris just mentioned about like Cody and the story. Does this change anything for Randy being there? Does this going to set up a feud with somebody you think across the way? Maybe I think he could have a great feud with Drew that would really kind of build them both up. But Randy's really one of the kings of the comeback when you think of it. What do you foresee happening with Randy's addition to this match?
I'm super pumped that Randy Orton's coming back. Like, hey, Randy. But going back to what Chris said, I think if it was Soul Survivor with the matches with the people there, the only person who could win would be Seth Rollins because he's the champion, so he can't take a pin. Anyway, so I'm super pumped about Randy being back. I think that Randy could develop a story with anybody in that ring, on his team or the other team, because like he's known to turn heel here or there as well. So like, you never know. I feel like, Drew McIntyre makes the most sense because it's unlikely that he'll feud with Damian Priest, like someone from the Judgment Day, because they've got so much going on. But it also could be Finn Balor. But I think the Drew McIntyre is probably not going to be heel for a long time, but he'll probably rock as a tweener for a while. I don't see him joining the Judgment Day, but Randy Orton, I think this is a good match for him to come back. He'll probably maybe enter last or second last. Protect him as long as possible. You don't want to bring him back and then have him get injured again.
Or straight gas.
I don't expect him. Yeah. And well, you know what though? He's keeping in shape for sure. Like his cardio is great. Like I think the one thing about not one thing about Randy Orton, but like the thing about Randy Orton that's really impressive to me is that when I stopped watching wrestling, Randy Orton was just becoming, he was just entering into his career, and I hated him, and like that was what you're supposed to do, but just to see how he's evolved into the wrestler that he is and being able to be, the biggest baby face or a face, and then also be a heel and just kind of like not give a fuck, but like then develop other wrestlers at the same time. Like I'm super excited for his twilight because like, first ballot Hall of Famer right there.
100%.
He could be the champion one more time and you wouldn't bat an eye at it. And I think that like he might deserve that chance and then, retire with his eyes in the sky or to the sky.
Yeah, he's one of the most versatile wrestlers on the planet as well. When you kind of look at like how quickly he adapted to professional wrestling, coming from being in the army and all that stuff, and obviously he's second generation star, I think maybe third, but probably second generation star with his dad, and just how quickly he took to everything and how good he got. Like I mean, one of the things that are really funny, like I remember when he first came in, and Chris, you might because I think you might have been watching wrestling a lot, maybe Josh too, if you were, but when they put Randy Orton and he got drafted to SmackDown and then he got injured for that 1 year and then he had the percentage countdown about Randy Orton coming back and he's like, hey, my injury recovery is at 23%. And it was like they do it every week. He's like, we're getting closer. We're at 64%. And then like 2 weeks later, he's in Evolution, right? So I think it's just going to be really interesting. I think he's a wild card that comes in. I found like him coming back, we all heard about it. A lot of stuff leaks out of WWE camps, and it just makes it unfortunately more predictable, right? So it was a little bit predictable. I didn't really see Drew McIntyre kind of siding with that with Judgment Day until we actually saw the line happening for it. But I think this is going to be a banger. I think War Games, you got some big bodies in there. You got people that can work, and you got people that are going to be really, really good. They're not afraid to hurt themselves. They're not afraid of anything. And I think this is going to be hopefully very violent. Is it going to be Swerve and Hangman violent? No. But War Games is its own type of violence. And I think WWE bringing back the double cage and having everything is really, really smart. And I think it's going to be fun to kind of see these matches because they're always, I find, good in a lot of cases.
I hope Dominic Mysterio gets his fucking ass beat. Like, I would love to see, like, if he got the Swerve, like, if he got treated like Swerve Strickland did in that match, I would be very pleased and impressed with him. Like, that, you could do it, Dominic. Deathmatch style, baby.
Yeah, you gotta do something. There's a lot of pain that comes with wrestling in these matches, and I think it's your opportunity to really do something awe-inspiring, and you just gotta have the guts to do it. And you kind of hope that your producer in WWE lets you loose to do it, right? So it'll be a good thing. Now, like we said, this is we're kind of shooting this podcast on a Thursday night. SmackDown is tomorrow night. Survivor Series will be Saturday. One of the rumored matches that are coming out of camp is obviously Solo Sikoa coming off a really big victory over John Cena, going after L.A. Knight. Yeah. I think that's got really big implications, especially with coming out of Crown Jewel and seeing what happened where LA Knight unsuccessfully challenged for Roman Reigns' Universal Championship. But this is a match between two up-and-comers that really could go either way when you actually think about it on the card. You got Solo Sikoa on one hand, who's an absolute killer, and you have probably, arguably, one of the most charismatic superstars we've seen in the last 5 years with LA Knight, and the catchphrases and everything that he has going on, and that's pretty much it. So it's not just the truth, guys. It's a fact of life. So Chris, when you're thinking about this match, does this match need to happen at Survivor Series? Do you think, like, as a predicted match, do you think this match is happening, and do you think it's gonna really add to this card if it goes down the way it's supposed to go down on SmackDown?
I think it's hard not to put LA Knight on the card. So if that's the way to do it, that's pretty good. Solo's coming off a win against John Cena, correct? If I'm not mistaken. So it's kind of, yeah, it's interesting because, like, do you take somebody who just beats John Cena and then have them lose? I'm not too sure what's going to happen with this one. You got to keep LA's momentum going. He's older. Like, this is going to be his last shot to get to WWE main event status. So, I mean, I guess the writing will be on the wall either way. If he loses, that's probably the end of LA Knight, because I don't know. It's hard to come back from a loss like that. And if he wins, I think we know that momentum's still going. I mean, if they're going to book him to lose, he just lost as well he just lost in his bid for the championship. So yeah, I don't know. I hope he wins, and I hope they keep it going. But we know with WWE, sometimes we see somebody lose a big match, and that's to put somebody else over them.
So, Chris, are you in prison right now?
No.
Yeah, because you need to get off the fence. Who's winning this match? Is it Solo or LA Knight? Get off the fence. Who's winning? If this match goes down, who takes it?
LA Knight takes it.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, Josh. Yeah, we've seen a lot of things, and Chris mentioned really a part, and I think like there's a lot of stuff when it comes to winning and losing. Like, so you mentioned the Seth Rollins things that he should win as a champion. I kind of disagree with that a little bit because I think it's a perfect chance to kind of create that clouded doubt in him. If to lose in a bigger spectrum, like, because you wouldn't expect him to lose that one-on-one, right? So is Chris right with what he's saying about LA Knight? If Solo Sikoa does go over, it doesn't really take an effect for LA Knight where he's like really dropped down at that point, because let's face it, we know a lot of the numbers. This guy's the number one merchandise sales in WWE for the last like 7 or 8 months now. Like, is it a really big hit for him to lose this? And what do you think? Who do you think is the winner of this match if it is announced?
Yeah, I'm kind of like Chris on the fence. You hope for LA Knight to win. I could see Solo Sikoa winning. Actually, I think I would go on the opposite direction, saying LA Knight loses with interference that helps Solo Sikoa win. It keeps LA Knight kind of like, I'm not saying that he can't just beat Solo Sikoa, but he's got to beat him clean. I don't see Solo Sikoa losing clean, so that's kind of where I'm going, where Solo Sikoa wins, and he beats LA Knight by cheating, and LA Knight's like, well, of course I lose to you the same way that I lost to Roman, like that's all you guys ever do, and then maybe it creates a match with Roman where there's like no outside interference. I don't know. Or I still don't see LA Knight being the one who takes it off of Roman Reigns anyways, so him losing delays him getting back in the face of Roman Reigns maybe a little bit longer. I'm not sure. So I'm going to go with Solo Sikoa.
Yeah, I kind of agree. It is a little bit of a tough call when you look at it. I think WWE is stupid if they don't go with LA Knight. I think you need somebody that's going to fill the slot to at least Royal Rumble, right? And I think like if Cody's finishing the story, like at the end of the day, like are you okay with putting LA Knight, a guy like kind of what you said, Chris, on the twilight of his career, kind of with his last shot to really kind of vault into that main event status? Are you really going to waste it to just give Cody what he wanted a year later? And it kind of goes back to what happened with kind of when we were talking about like with Sami Zayn, right? Like you need to strike when the iron's hot, and the iron's really hot right now for LA Knight. And we're kind of seeing this again where they're not kind of using it to its best potential. I mean, money-wise, it's great. If they're making merch sales, that's fantastic. But, merch sales really dictates your popularity in a lot of cases. I mean, unless you have something else going for you. Like, Reigns doesn't have to be the number one in merchandise. Bloodline merchandise will sell itself. But at the end of the day, like, he has the 1,000-day, I've held the belt for 3 years type gig with it, right? So I don't really know kind of where to go with this when you're kind of coming through. Is he like, what do you guys think? Do you think he's a placeholder for the Royal Rumble when he comes back in, and we're just waiting on Cody to come in and fight Roman at WrestleMania? Is that the plan here? Like, do you see anything else? Because I that's what I really see. I don't really foresee LA Knight with anybody else or kind of going after any other title till Royal Rumble. It almost makes sense, right?
It's kind of bad. It's kind of bad timing because, especially since like that's all what we think we know is Cody's going to be the guy. So it's kind of bad timing for LA Knight to get as popular as he is, because unless Hunter's going to change his mind, unless he's totally different than Vince and maybe prolongs Cody. I don't know. That's the one thing for me is, like we said, the twilight of his career. It's like do you take that away from him? Do you get him a taste and get him all the way up there, have him make you a ton of money and don't really reward him? So it's you want to see it, of course, but if there is steadfast, unless Cody gets hurt, you never know. But I think they're gonna go with Cody. I think that, like, they've ran this for so long, there's no way they can change it, and I just think it's bad timing for LA Knight to get popular.
Yeah, Josh, what are your thoughts? I think if once you get to the Royal, like, I think honestly, like right now, like you'd have to pencil in Cody Rhodes as the Royal Rumble winner at this point again to win it for a second year in a row. I mean, I don't know any other way that he gets to fight Roman other than winning the Royal Rumble, or just magically showing up on SmackDown one day, right? Like, is he the penciled in winner for the Royal Rumble in your opinion?
Yeah, I think I've said that several episodes ago that that's kind of how I saw it play. I thought there was going to be a swerve when Jey Uso came to Raw, and then I thought Cody was like, oh, this is how I go to SmackDown, and then the story continues So then, it opened up the Rumble to someone else. But, the only logical way for Cody to fight Roman without a brand change would be through the Royal Rumble. So they would have to, and the draft is after WrestleMania, is it not? Or it's after the Rumble
Yeah,
at least?
usually,
Like, I know
it's,
that,
it's after WrestleMania because they usually do it going into the new season. That'll signify the new season.
yeah. So what I actually think is that, LA Knight could continue his popularity and that potentially he gets drafted to Raw and beats whoever Seth Rollins has lost to, or Seth Rollins at some point. Maybe he gets that title. Does it need to be the Universal title? I'm not really sure. Again, I don't think that he's the one to beat Roman Reigns. Wouldn't be upset with him beating Roman Reigns. It's just the way that the story's going out. Again, unless Cody gets hurt, he's already foreshadowing that he's going to close the story. So like Cody's going to fight Roman again, whether he's the one who beats Roman. I don't fucking know. I mean, Damian Priest could beat Roman at this point. Get that money in the bank out there, and like that's the wild card. He's got to use it before WrestleMania, right? So who's he going to use it on? Is he going to become another statistic? The men's title hasn't always won the championship like the women's title, which hopefully the Money in the Bank changes that eventually, where the women doesn't win, because that would be fun too. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's really interesting to see what way it's going to go, and it's kind of a cool storyline for a predicted match. And I think we talked about more than about that match and the other two matches really combined, right? It'll be interesting to see if that gets shown on Friday night, if that's going to happen on SmackDown, and that's the type of match that we're going to be looking forward to. So again, Survivor Series will be on Saturday, November 25th. With the kickoff starting at 7 o'clock, so be sure to check that out. It should be a good. Hopefully, I don't know. I'm hoping for the best. I mean, I don't know what to say. I'm not saying it's a. I think the card's like a 5 or 6 out of 10 at this point, and I'm just hoping it's a lot better than what it is. We've been surprised in the past, so let's be for real. But, gentlemen, that's it for topics for episode 24. Anything you want to add, Chris?
Nope, I'm good.
Well, yeah, it seems like your door is still in fantastic shape. I can't wait till you fix it. Josh, what about you? Anything to add here? Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to slice your salami, right?
Yeah, I just earlier was brought up. Gunther has been champion 529 days.
Really? Holy fuck! I was way off.
529. No, hey, yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, that's about it for me. Besides my slices, my salami.
Josh, slice it up. I totally forgot about slice my salami, so slice it up, good sir. Nice and fine.
Okay, so this is kind of two, but they go together. So, you know what really slices my salami?
Tell us.
Long setups for high. What really slices my salami is long setups for high flying moves and wrestlers positioning themselves at a long distance for high flying moves. So when someone hits the rope 6 times and then you can see the wrestlers congregating. I believe it happened several times last night in the women's match, or maybe it was on Monday, and where the person hits the ropes 4 or 5 times, claps, and gets the fans into it. It's a little too slow for me, considering how many wrestlers no sell. There's a lot of guys somewhat shuffling from the wrong corner of the ring to make sure that they're close enough so the person can hit their moonsaults. And that's what slices my salami, fellas.
Yeah, get it together, guys. Get closer and help your opponent out by letting them, when you're going to do a suicide move that's supposed to look like it hurts them, get closer so that they can actually looks like it hits them. Fuck.
Yeah, just do a Darby Allin. Just make sure you throw yourself and don't give a fuck. Oh, that's the other thing that I forgot to say is we won't be seeing Darby Allin for a while because he's going to go train in China to climb Mount Everest.
Let's hope he doesn't end up as one of those frozen bodies.
Yeah, he might.
Hey, there's the Darby Allin landmark right there. We're halfway up the hill.
Well, it's funny because it's either that or he's gonna die riding the tricycle off the thing with Nitro Circus. So it's one of those two, right? So hopefully, I think he'll get through it. He should be fine. He's mentally tough. Take that much pain, you have to be mentally tough, right? But
You can't fix an anoxic brain injury, though.
no, that's very true, and that's very true. Good old, you better learn how to anaerobic breathing exercises, which seems contradictory, but you better have a good anaerobic system when you're up there. But that's it. Episode 24 is in the books. Get ready. Survivor Series this weekend. Get ready. Collision Continental Classic continues on Saturday. Big day on Saturday for wrestling, so get ready for that. And with that being said, Josh, you can laugh your ass off now if you want. Wherever you are in the world tonight, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. With that, the Rub Wrestling Podcast bids you adieu. Bang!
Cause the beats running copacetic. When it all falls down, I hope you don't forget it. Nico City, son of anarchy, the hype demanded me. Mikey damage, show you amateurs the cost of vanity. So fuck humanity, flowy murder open-handedly. Most of my clique, yo, they come from broken families. The world that we know it is coming to a closure. Can't find peace in a world full of